Imagine a man who is the pillar of his community, a successful businessman, a political volunteer, and the guy who throws the best neighborhood block parties. On weekends, he transforms. He puts on a colorful suit, paints a thick white mask over his face, and becomes Pogo the Clown to make sick children laugh. Everyone loves Pogo. But behind that painted-on smile, John Wayne Gacy was hiding a hunger for something far darker than applause. Beneath the very floorboards where he slept, he was building a graveyard. This isn't a Hollywood slasher flick, this is the true story of the killer clown. To the world, he was a hero. To the 33 young men who met him, he was the last nightmare they ever saw. But monsters aren't born, they are made in the dark. To understand the killer clown, we have to peel back the grease paint and look into the suffocating darkness of the crawl space under 8213 West Summerdale Avenue. John's story starts with a different kind of monster, his father. Growing up in Chicago, Gacy was a sickly child, but his father, a violent alcoholic, had no room for weakness. He ruthlessly beat John, calling him sissy and stupid. This environment created a man obsessed with power and manliness. As John grew, he became a master manipulator. In 1968, he was jailed for sexual assault, but was released early as a model prisoner. He moved to suburban Des Plaines and rebuilt his life as the perfect neighbor, using his construction business, PDM contractors, as a front to hunt for the one thing he was denied as a child: total, undisputed control. Gacy's method was a masterclass in psychological warfare. He would lure young men with the promise of high-paying work or his infamous handcuff trick. He'd boast about his police connections, click the cuffs onto their wrists, and challenge them to escape. But the moment the metal locked, the game was over. The keys were gone. One such victim was 19-year-old John Seek. In 1977, Gacy lured Seek to his home under the guise of buying Seek's car. Once the cuffs were on, Gacy tortured him for hours before using a piece of wood and a rope to create a turkey-wrap tourniquet, slowly strangling the life out of him. Gacy watched the light fade from Sykes' eyes, then dragged his body into the crawl space. Days later, Gacy was seen driving Sykes' car, a trophy of his kill, boasting that he got it for a steal. The cracks in Gacy's mask finally shattered on the 11th of December 1978. Robert Peast, a 15-year-old high school student, was working at a local pharmacy. He told his mother, who was waiting in the car, "Wait just a few minutes, I'm going to talk to a contractor about a job." That contractor was Gacy. Robert walked into the snow and vanished. Unlike many of Gacy's victims, Robert had a family that refused to stay silent. When police searched Gacy's home, they found a photo processing receipt in a jacket pocket. It belonged to Robert Peast. As detectives walked through the house, the sewage smell Gacy had complained about for years became an unbearable stench of rot. They began to dig, because Gacy's crawl space was already a mass grave packed with 29 bodies. There was no room left for Robert. Gacy had been forced to drive Robert's body to the I-55 bridge and toss him into the icy Des Plaines River like trash. When investigators finally broke ground in that 4-foot-high dirt void, the scale of the horror paralyzed the nation. They found 29 bodies buried in the damp, lime-soaked earth. They were stacked like cordwood, meticulously, arranged to save space. Gacy had lived a double life for 6 years, hosting summer parties on his patio, while 30 bodies decomposed just feet below his guests' shoes. He used 5 pounds of lime on each body to mask the smell, a trick he learned from his construction background. By the time of his arrest, the earth was so saturated with remains that the house itself had to be demolished. In 1994, Illinois put the killer clown to death by lethal injection. He didn't ask for forgiveness. His final words to the world were a sneer, "Kiss my ass." But the real horror didn't end with the needle. Even today, decades later, several of those boys remain John Doe's anonymous, skeletons with no names. And the most terrifying part? Gacy's timeline has gaps. There are missing persons and travel dates that don't fit the 33 known victims. As Gacy's heart stopped, he took the true number of his victims to the grave. We like to believe the monster is gone, but the grease paint has a way of never truly washing off. Somewhere, the bodies he never mentioned are still waiting to be found.